Thank you.
Yellow Creek. Nothing brings a family together like Black Diamond, Canada's #1 most trusted cheddar cheese brand.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys doing? All right, man, all these beautiful brown faces. Yeah, we're spread out. How come all the Indians always hide in the back? Hey, maybe they're not supposed to be here. I don't know. You're going to get found out really quick because we got a live stream and we got cameras pointing that way. Hey. But we're going to get going here in about 15 minutes. And so if you got some pals and some relatives that you came with, tell them to come and grab a seat. We're going to get going in just a little bit. And again, welcome to Think Indigenous International Education Conference. And we're going to see you very soon, all right? 15 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're set to go. Big medals.
Looks like they're all over. Deputies are there. Nosy Saturday.
unlock the world's largest, most liquid financial market with Forex.com. Forex, or FX, involves trading one currency for another. It's a big deal with a daily turnover of $7.5 trillion. Forex markets are super liquid, ever-changing, and available 24/5. That means one thing: potential trading opportunities. Discover these opportunities with Forex.com.
We take it all over to the voice of Weatherford out Thunder Hill. Have a good time, girls.
Enemy submarine spotted.
Attention, reporting the target position.
Black man.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing?
Okay. Is this on? Let's try that again. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Okay, that's
All right, yate, danse, bonjour, anin, atlanete, how, and tanche. Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute honor to welcome you all back to Think Indigenous International Education Conference here in 2025. Big round of applause. We're back. I'm one of your hosts here today. My name is TJ Warren, and one of the ways that I like to ground myself is using my language. I was very privileged growing up, surrounded by my relatives and seeing my culture and language just thriving all around me. And so I like to share introduction in my language. I come from the Dene people. Do I have any Dene relatives out in the audience? All right. Hey, I need to borrow $5. Hey, that's what you do, right? Right when you make relatives. Okay. Yat she TJ Warren yinashya. Ogre ne Twichini shlom but any bushin. A kilichini does not a sheet that she what are the nensle. I used to let such cheat as a kunde a dead na shop with anacra. Saskatoon de Conquest Enkad. By Hansen non hit Anshin Kon Think Indigenous International Education Conference. Don't con Di Holgenigi don't con Beyat Etole, don't con Jondole, do what a had non. So with that, I want to introduce my co-host here. We have Kunis Watney representing the Red Pheasant First Nations.
Danse. Danse, Gakiaga Dumskat Noal, Kuniswatni Netsigasun, Migsuwate Virginia. Like TJ said, I am proudly from the Red Pheasant Cree Nation. I am also a mother, an educator. So I graduated in 2020 with a Bachelor of Education. I am also a representative of a National Youth Council, the Ways of the Heart Youth Council, an ambassador of Hope with We Matter. I have a background in performing arts, theater and dance. I actually performed here once, and I'm also a jingle dress dancer. A little bit about me.
All right. Well, without further ado, we're going to be introducing our representatives. But before that, I want to acknowledge that we are all gathered here today on Treaty 4 territory with the shared purpose, to deepen our understanding, broaden our perspectives, and to engage in meaningful dialogue about the importance of Indigenous education. And so
we want to make acknowledgement of all of our important people in the House and the dignitaries, and so I'm going to turn that over to Kunis.
Yeah, so once again, acknowledging and thanking all of the leadership and dignitaries that are in attendance today. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to acknowledge MLA April Chief Calf of Saskatoon Westview, MLA Betty, oh yeah, let's applaud. We also have MLA Betty Nippy Albright from Saskatoon Centre. You can see her over there. MLA Don McBain, Saskatoon Chief. Thank you. And MLA Leroy Laliberty Athabasca, Shadow Minister for First Nations and Métis Relations. Thank you all for coming.
All right, and now we'd like to introduce the leader from our host nation here, Chief Evan Tapetat from the Kakowistahau First Nations, joined by his daughter and niece, Beatrice and Layla. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Bonjour, Tanse, bonjour, kia ora. Welcome Treaty 4 territory, and welcome to Think Indigenous 2025. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the pipes that was lifted today. Kateak Dexter Asapas did that for us this afternoon. Also want to acknowledge the fellow leadership in the room. I know Chief Roger Redmond is one of them, as well as many different council members from the various First Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Evan Tapetat. I am the Chief of Kakowistahau First Nation. Today I am flanked by my council, Councillor Corey Alexton, Councillor William K. Suesamat, Councillor Iris Tapetat Scribe, and Councillor Michael Bob. Today I am joined by two young ladies to my left and right, and I thought it was fitting that they be here today as we are all educators in here. I'm going to give them a few seconds to introduce themselves right now, and we'll go from there. So first one is...
Hi, I'm Pia. Hi, I'm Layla.
They are super nervous right now. But this is my daughter, by the way, and this is my niece, Layla. I wanted to bring him here today for two reasons. Number one, to put him under a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of pressure, because we're trying to raise them to be these young women that are going to go out there and get it done for us. But also, I thought they should be on stage because you are all educators, and in your home communities, you know what this is. This could be your relative up here, so I thought it was fitting that they're up here. Now, I used to be an old teacher. Back in the day, I was a principal, and I remember back when I was a teacher, the good ones sat at the front. Martina, what the hell? And the bad ones sat at the back. All right, you're lucky I can't see up there because I'd put some of you on the spot. We're back here today revitalizing Think Indigenous. Dr. Chris Scribe, my brother, my friend, a guy I went through ITEP University of Saskatchewan with, this is his creation. Let's give Dr. Chris Scribe a round of applause right now. He's got a whole gamut of team. He's got Curtis, he's got Derek Rope, he's got my wife Megan, he's got all the CKCS staff helping him out. There's a professional videographers here. There's a whole slew of people here that he's kind of put together. This is his idea. This is his baby. In 2014, we ran through the first version of it. I was one of the keynotes. And back then, I said, what am I supposed to speak about? And he said, I don't know. Just speak. It's up to you. And so if you look it up on YouTube, there's a whole bunch of us that kind of were the first ones through. And it turned out good. And here we are in the 8th year. It was going full steam ahead until COVID hit us in 2020. COVID kind of stopped everything. They were at U of A, Enoch, and they were just going full steam ahead. This past winter, Chris and I sat together and we said, you know what? Let's get this thing going again. It was about a year ago, actually. It was wintertime, towards the end. And he wanted to rename it because he said, Kakowistahau, take it on. And we kind of said, okay, right? Because that involves a bit of money, it involves a bit of planning. But then he wanted to name it something else. And I said, and I kind of thought about it overnight, and I said, no. It's got to be Think Indigenous. Think Indigenous is what he is, it's what he does, and Think Indigenous has a brand. It's a brand everybody knows. So this past winter, we put those plans in place, and we asked our council, what do you think? And the council was full on board to be here today. We're all in 2025, we're all in this place where we got to create space. We have to create space for everybody. We especially have to create space for our educators, and that is why we're here tonight. So I want to thank Dr. Scribe for putting everything together for us. Some highlights that I'm looking for personally. Where's our Utinau? Derek, our Edmonton crew. There they are there. Those guys flew here from Edmonton today, and they were the first ones here. Let's give them a round of applause, please. They were sitting downstairs about an hour and a half ago. They were the first ones here, and they like, where do we go? I said, well, okay, I think we go upstairs. But nonetheless, there's 3 of them here. They were trying to charge up on my tab at the vendors already. Also, today I took a group over to FNUV, First Nations University of Canada, and there's some students there that today. 5 of them gave us their time and kind of come in and told us as young people what they'd like to see. So they're in the crowd. I know Tanisha's in the crowd for sure. Sage and Brittany were going to join us as well. So our young people that are meandering and finding their way through their undergrads, let's give them a round of applause, please, right now. So tonight, we're kicking off, we're restarting after a kind of 5-year hiatus. There are going to be some growing pains, so just work with us, right? On Kakawista'al, we like to take compliments and constructive criticism both, all right? So make sure we reach out to Dr. Scribe and his team and say, here's what went right, here's what went wrong, because we are going to be back here a year from now, bigger and better, but we got to get through this first one post-COVID. Some things I'm excited about tonight. We got Kristen Uzichby going to go tonight. She's ready to go backstage. We got my good friend Graham from New Zealand in the Auckland area. He's ready to go. And he always says the word, far out. So when he was putting his hand in the snow the other day, and he's like, far out. So they don't have snow there. He's here somewhere. And he's a keynote tomorrow morning at 8:45. So he's going to get on stage. One of our own Kakawista'al band members, Nina Wilson, up front. She's going to rock and roll Friday. Let's give her a round of applause. And then our breakout groups tomorrow, right? They're all there. They're all finding their way. I'll commend them for putting their hand up, saying, "Hey, I want to go present," because having been one of those presenters, it takes a little bit of courage to get out there and do your thing, right? But we got some good presenters. And then our Red Talks is on Friday. Red Talks will be going. The version of that is from TED Talks, and Chris is going to make sure that's going. Probably what I'm most excited about is the Northern Grass Dance Championships tomorrow night. We got 8 of the best dancers, and Chris, I don't want to steal Chris's thunder, but he looked at all the big powwows last summer, and he looked at who got first and who got second, and he put everybody in. AI spit out the names, and there was the 8, and all 8 accepted to be here. Rusty Gillette, Ira McNabb, Jace Roberts, Wambady are just a few of them that are going to be here tomorrow night. They're all flying here today. Some of them have been training. I know my good friend Ira has been running a lot and playing hockey to get his cardio up. And Mitswing, our young Mitswing dancer there, and I call him young, he's not that young, but he's been training with a weight vest on, sending us videos. So it's literally like these gentlemen have been training to be here tomorrow. One of the things we did today, and I'll announce this right now, we looked at the prize money. The prize money was initially $10,000 for first, 5, 3, 1, 1, 1, kind of went down. We upped it today. Tomorrow's winner will get $10,000. Second place will be 8, 6, 4, 3, 3, 3, and 3. So. We thought they are the best in the business. They should be paid as such, and our drums are being paid as such, so we made that money available. And I will let Chris announce who we're doing next year, but when he approached us, as we are in this creating space, I said, what about the women? Okay, we need to make sure we create space for our women. So he will announce who is going next year. We think we have a pretty good category for next year. To close up, I want to say and a special thank you to, there's a couple First Nations that have brought their whole staff here. And there was even a couple stray dogs outside, and I think they said they were from Beardees, those dogs. Beardees and Okamasis. Beardees and Okamasis brought all of their education staff here, all right? Chegakin, let's give them a round of applause. They brought their whole staff here. Cumberland House from way up north brought their whole staff here. And last but not least, White Bear First Nation. Let's give them a round of applause. So I want you to spread the word. We're going to make room for more next year. There was room for 1,000. Somehow, some way, we ended up with 1,085. But we won't blame any names, but we forgot one school and they showed up and we got them through. I'll close with two things. Number one, I want everyone in this room to realize that you are important. You are so important as our educators. I like to think of the people back home that are in our schools. My hurricane staff is here. They are more important than chief and council. They are more important than the people that wear headdresses. You are more important than the people that wear headdresses in council, because you are the ones in the trenches with the kids. You are the ones dealing with the teenagers. You are the ones coaching the sports teams. So that being said, when this thing closes Friday, be extra cautious on your way home. I need you to get home to your home fires so that you can go back home and say, hey man, we had a good time down there. We learned a few things and we're gonna teach those in our community, okay? So look around, make sure we give everybody that little extra hug on Friday and say, get the hell home. And Cumberland House, you can take your damn dogs with you that are outside, okay? Be bringing your dogs to Kakawista and leaving them with me, okay? I'll leave you with one quote. It's a quote that I use a lot because I wear a headdress. Dr. Chris Scribe said this. He said, change is not made by people in suits, and change is not made by people in bonnets, and change is not made by people in Ottawa. Change is made in the classroom. That is you all. So, you are all so important to us. You really are, because we do our jobs in the political side of things, and we can't do them if you aren't doing your jobs in the schools. So keep doing what you're doing. You're all so important to us. On behalf of Councillor William Caseway Smet, Councillor Michael Bob, Councillor Iris Tapetat Scribe, and Councillor Corey Alexson, welcome to Think Indigenous 2025. By the powers vested in me, I now say we are open for conference. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Chief, and your bodyguards. All right, well, beautiful start to our event. Great welcoming. Indigenous culture and language and spirituality and our identity have been under constant attack from the outside by colonization and colonialism. Our life and our ways of life have been steadily eroded over time. Over the last century, many of our elders have passed, and a new generation of Indigenous youth increasingly embrace the dominant culture. Our language, our cultural practices, and our relationship to land have been the foundation of our resilient communities for thousands of years. Yet our work is far from finished. We are here not only to celebrate this rich heritage, but also to explore ways to weave Indigenous knowledge and teachings into the practices and into the fabric of our educational systems today. We must ask ourselves, how can we better honor our ancestors? How can we better honor the Indigenous ways of knowing of our people? How can we cultivate environments where Indigenous students can thrive and where we're represented and where all learners can come to understand and appreciate the wisdom passed down from generations to generations?
We are so lucky for the opportunity to be able to come together to learn and to share with a community of educators and scholars and lifelong learners and knowledge keepers and elders, all with this shared commitment to Indigenous education, because we believe our youth should feel in school what we feel in spaces like this when we come together as Indigenous people to share our ways of knowing. I think about what I needed when I was in school, what would have helped me, and I think of what I want for my daughter for when she starts school next year. You know, she's a Cree baby. I want her to be able to carry her identity and be proud of that in every space that she goes into. So next, I would like to invite someone up to the stage who I don't think needs any introduction, but we have Dr. Christopher Scribe, a leader in Indigenous education and a co-founder of Think Indigenous. Can we please welcome him to the stage? You know, he's one of my biggest inspirations as an Indigenous educator, Because when I think of decolonizing education, he's always one of the first people I think of as a champion of sharing Indigenous knowledge in our classrooms. He knows how powerful our knowledge is and the strength in it, and he believes in our people and our youth, and he's passionate about putting that work in to create opportunities like this for our people to learn and grow and succeed. So, I'll pass it on to you.
Tansego magantik. Prescribed sigasan. Kinaseo CP, egwa, nisachawaya si utinia. How kunabi togahe amani amachi abi. Chegagin agitchitaya tae hibi. Welcome, Think Indigenous 2025. It's so awesome to see like everybody here gathering around the spirit of Indigenous education. This is where the answers are for our children. This is where we find them. It's helping them and supporting them in their language, their culture, and their identity. When we gather together in these spaces, take every opportunity to do something meaningful that's going to help our young people in our communities. We have an obligation as educators. I'm an educator. I have dedicated my life in terms of my career to creating space for our children to know who they are, to acknowledge and rebuild and reconnect to their language, and to find their identities. And our schools are the most powerful weapon that we can use to rebuild that. In the early 1970s, the late 1960s, there was a revolution that happened, and that revolution was reclaiming who we were. Every single time that I get a chance to talk to our people and go into our schools and talk to my friends and my colleagues and educators, I see hope that we can do something beautiful. Because when those grandmothers pitched up their canvas tents on the yards of Blue Quills Residential School and told Canada and told the colonizers that they're not going to be able to do it to us, that education, we're going to take it back, they seen you. They seen your potential. They seen what could happen. And they didn't know what it was. And like all things, Indians, we ask for help from Creator to guide us. Think Indigenous and what happens here and how it looks and what's created. I wish that I could take credit for that, but I can't. I ask our ancestors, Nimoshum, Mikush, I ask them to guide our work so that we're able to do something special for our children. And that's why Think Indigenous was created. You're not going to come to this conference and no magic wand is going to be waved and you're going to be able to save all of our children in our schools. The only thing that I asked for prayers for, that I asked to happen in this space, is that you take something from here. And that what you take is a spark. So that when you go back to your communities and you see our children suffering, that you take that spark and you light a fire. And with that fire, you're going to burn down all of the structures that were designed to kill us. And you're going to rebuild the way we think as Indigenous people. And that means we build up our children from the core of who they are, teaching them language and culture and tradition, and who they are as the ultimate source. If we do that, what will happen is that our people our children will become successful in this world. I understand and I know that we want our people to be doctors and lawyers and PhDs and all of that stuff. I know that we want that. But we need to create Indians and give them the source of their power because it's immense and it's limitless. And I'm standing here and I have a PhD, I'm a doctor. I reached the max the ceiling of what we call a Western education. There's nobody that can come and say to me that I don't have enough education, because I have the max. But what's most important to me, what's the most valuable to me, is what was taught to me by my grandmother, my mother's, my father, what was shared to me and what was built on and built into who I am. That's what's most important, and that's why I'm standing here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have really anything to give. The only thing that I can give you is the prayers that were said on behalf of you to take a spark back to your communities. And I give that to you. What you do with it is up to you. But like all of you, you see what's happening in our schools, in our communities. You see what the devastation, the negativity, you see what's going on. We have a solution, and it's sitting in the minds of our knowledge keepers and wisdom carriers. Access them. Bring it to your classrooms. Take what you learn here and start a fire. If you do that, our people will survive, our people will thrive, and will blow the roof off of any system that's out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to say thank you for coming here, taking the time to be part of this conference. It doesn't exist without you. It happens and it occurs because of you. So I want to say to you, all of you that are here, enjoy yourselves. Have a good time. Visit people outside of who you know and who you come from. Listen to the knowledge that's here. Listen to something that inspires you. Listen to something that's going to make you be powerful as you go back to your communities. Before I go, I don't want to talk long. My cousin is going to come up. True nepotism, Indian way. I only picked my relatives to speak. Yeah, teasing, of course. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge Kakawistahau First Nation. Think Indigenous doesn't happen without them forcing me. And my older brother telling me, no, do it. And I needed that push. And with it came a whole bunch of really things fall into place and things work out when you do things from your heart in a good way. And I'm so grateful for them and the staff and everybody that's out there for what they did. Let's give Kakawista a big round of applause, please. As Indian people, it is our job and one of our laws for us to create and build relatives. That's one of our laws. Nawagu magantik, matakiabi, to build relatives and what that is. I have older sisters here from Saddle Lake, and it made me feel good to have them support this. I have brothers that back this up as much as they can. So you go out there and think Indigenous and create relatives. Because the Creator gave us one extremely deadly law. And the law He gave us was live your life and be a good relative. So let's do that today for Think Indigenous. Let's be good relatives to one another. Let's uplift and support each other as best we can. We didn't need anybody to bring us down. And if we do that, we're going to have a wicked, awesome time. So with that, everybody here, Wopana, I'm so grateful for all of you. Thank you. You're all deadly, and it's going to be a deadly time. Hi. See you later.
All right, Mr. Think Indigenous himself. So many of us, as we do the work that we do, one of the things that we're taught is that, what we're doing is the work that our ancestors had fought for too. And we're continuing on that work, whether it's through decolonization. Because through decolonization, the passing of our Indigenous knowledge combats the erasures of our Indigenous being and who we are. So this in turn helps to heal the deep wounds of colonialism and create a basis of returning back to our original teachings that originate from these lands. So this long-time practice is vital to our resurgence. If we are not actively, sharing and using and preserving our culture, our language, and our practices, we will have fully assimilated into the mass-dominant society. So remember, this conference is a space to reflect, to share ideas, to uplift one another, to collaborate, to inspire our Indigenous communities as educators. We're privileged to learn from a diverse range of voices here from all four directions who are leading the way in this transformative work.
Okay. Next up, I would like to introduce Kristen Yuzichpi Tutusis. She is a proud member of the Tatanka-Najin Dakota Nation, deeply rooted in her cultural identity and the teachings passed down through generations. She is a mother of three, a dancer, an artist, a psychotherapist, and an EMDR clinician. She holds a Bachelor's of Indigenous Education through the First Nations University of Canada and a Master's in Educational Psychology from the University of Regina. She is the Director of Mental Health Services for the Treaty Education Alliance and has extensive experience in psychotherapy, therapeutic program management, education, and post-secondary instruction. Can you please join me in welcoming Kristen through the stage?
Thank you. I have a lot of stuff here. Got my timer. Hamatakiapi. Chante washte na pe chiuzapi. Kristen Yuzichpi amakiapi e. Tatankanaji oyate hamataha. Hello, my relatives. My name is Kristen Yuzichpi. I'm from Standing Buffalo, Dakota Nation, and I greet you all with a good heart. I shake your hand. I'm very lucky to be here. I'd like to thank Indigenous for inviting me. It's such an amazing opportunity to be in the same room with so many educators. When I was thinking about what I was going to discuss for my presentation, I had a couple of ideas. None of them were quite fitting. And I just thought I asked for guidance, so then I asked for guidance. Help me pick a topic that's relatable. What message needs to be heard from the children? So I chose this topic. Everything fell into place. Nurturing healing for Indigenous students and families affected by overdose. And the reason I chose this topic was because every single classroom, every single school that we visit, that we're in, there's children in those classrooms who've experienced witnessing an overdose, who worry about a loved one who might overdose, or who they've lost somebody to an overdose. So I feel that even as educators and helpers, we all know somebody who's experienced an overdose, or we've lost somebody to overdose. But nobody talks about it. We don't talk about it. We carry on. We have hurt in our heart. We miss people. We have a lot on our plate, and we carry it on our shoulders. I see this in so many communities, and it was challenging for me to do this presentation. But I did it with the help and the guidance that I had asked for. So to get started, I thought I would talk a little bit about where my advocacy has come from, where my roots come from. I consider myself to be an advocate for our children in mental health and education. I'm very passionate about education. Here's a picture of little me. And a little bit about me. I was raised by my grandmother, my amazing grandmother. She went to Indian residential school, and it was very traumatic and devastating for her. She did her absolute best in raising us. She raised grandchildren. I was the eldest, and I had a lot of responsibilities. I helped. I was like a little parent, and that was a hard thing to do. But from that, I learned a lot. I learned how to take care of children. I learned to be responsible. I'm not saying that that's okay. I know we still see that today in classrooms. But I understand what that's like, and I feel like that helps my connection with the children and youth that I work with and that I support. I struggled with attendance in school. I had a high adverse childhood experience score. That's trauma. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But I had a lot of trauma. I had experienced a lot. I was undiagnosed with ADHD. I got diagnosed in my 30s. That changed my life to have the diagnosis. That helped me understand that, forgetting my keys, losing my keys, forgetting what I was going to do, walking into a room and forgetting why I was there. All those times I was very hard on myself. But now that I know that I had ADHD all my life, well, it makes sense. We have a lot of undiagnosed students who have the same struggle. I was surrounded by addictions, lack of sleep, many basic needs unmet, low self-esteem, felt unsafe, unheard, and isolated, and trauma-informed care was needed. But back then it wasn't a thing yet. It did not exist. We didn't have trauma-informed care back in my school days. I can only imagine how much that would have helped me, how much that would have filled my heart and boosted my self-confidence and made me feel like I belonged. But we have trauma-informed care now, and we have teachers practicing it. This is what helped me. I had a lot against me. However, I understood the negative impacts of addiction at a young age. I saw it, I lived it, I still see it. It's everywhere, isn't it? If we think about it, we all have somebody who struggles with addiction, somebody who's working through addictions. Our children know that. Our children see it. Our children feel it. Our children have those same worries. I was taught Dakota values and natural law. I was taught how to bead and sew and pick medicines and pray, and opportunities to dance and partake in ceremonies really helped me. That's where my strength comes from. Because even though, my grandmother, she had a hard time, she had trauma, the cycles continued. However, she talked to us, she taught us the teachings, and she shared the culture with us. She taught us all of that. So when we struggled, we would pray. We would remember our values. We would remember to be a good relative. If you think about that, what does it mean to be a good relative? It's such an important value for us as Dakota people to be a good relative. And what that means is, we treat our relatives with love and compassion and kindness. We treat them really well. And if they're not being a good relative, we understand that. We see that they're hurting. They're hurting so much that they can't practice being a good relative. And we forgive that. We forgive them. Being a good relative also means if you teach in a First Nations school or you have First Nations children in your classroom, you have to be a good relative to them too. Even though you're not blood related to them, treat them like a relative. Be a good relative. When I talked about the adverse childhood experiences, these are experiences that we've been through, children are going through, before the age of 18. So what this does is it just kind of measures our trauma. This is not exactly how it is. I did leave 3 out. I think we know what abuse of any kind means. So the adverse childhood experiences, emotional neglect, feeling unloved, or feeling like you're not special. I had no idea that that was trauma. When I first discovered this and learned about this while I was in the Master of Educational Psychology program at the U of R, I had no idea that that was trauma. I thought it was just, I knew I had a lot of trauma, but I wasn't sure. Like, it's almost normalized. We think it's a normal thing, but it's not. Physical neglect, no one takes care of you or protects you, or you didn't have enough to eat, or you had to wear dirty clothes. So as I go through this list, I'd like you to just think about the students in your classrooms, the students that you support, and all of the worries that they actually carry and have, and they still show up to school. Having a family member who is addicted to alcohol or another substance, witnessing domestic violence, losing a parent to separation, divorce, or death, a family member who is depressed or diagnosed with other mental illnesses, lived with a family member who was incarcerated, and abuse of any kind. So those are the traumas, the adverse childhood experiences. When I refer to ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, that's what that is. And it shows itself in many different ways. Even with us as adults, when we think about all this, and we're thinking of our students, some stuff might come up. And usually that's because we have some healing to do too. All of us do. We all have something to work on. And what I would encourage people to do is, to take a look at it and understand that you don't have to just try to do it all, try to do all the healing at once, because that's not realistic. Just like when we work with our students, sometimes we do little pieces, have a break. Focus on one thing, have a break. Pick one thing that you want to work on, one part of healing that you want to focus on. It might be, communication, might be affection. If you did not experience affection and love in your home, maybe that's something you might want to improve on and show affection and love. If you are somebody who didn't know the value of play, what it was like to play when you were a child because you were parentified, you had parental responsibilities, maybe you might learn how to play. Play with your children, play with your grandchildren, play with your nieces and nephews. So as we go into, all of the possible worries the students that we work with might be experiencing, what I see is children in every classroom. There for sure is one, minimum, who has worries. Worries about a loved one. Might be mom, might be dad, auntie, uncle, brother, cousin. Our kinship is so strong in our communities. Our families are so big. It's such a beautiful thing, but it's also a very hard thing because our families are huge and our children love. It's a beautiful thing. But all that pain and the sadness and the worry, it does come from a place of love. So if you are an educator in First Nations communities, actually any community, like I've been working with people who are in cities and towns and they're experiencing this as well. So any children or youth who are impacted by overdose, this is what you might see in the classroom. This is how it might present itself. So it might present itself as disturbances, communication disturbances, sleep disturbances, which leads to fatigue during the day, unable to focus, unable to concentrate, learning difficulties. Aggression may present itself in different ways in the classroom. It might be verbal aggression, you might see physical aggression, reactive aggression, psychological aggression. Hiding emotions, this one's really common. We often see students who, they have the big worries. They're worried about mom, dad, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, and their relatives might be unhoused, and they worry about them. And often what I see is some children, they'll act like everything's okay because they care so much, they love so much that they don't want anybody to worry about them. We may see heightened emotions such as loneliness, sadness, self-blame, regret, and a heightened sense of just feeling out the surroundings, looking for safety, having a concern for safety. What can you do as an educator? What are some things you can do to help? Understanding that students may need extra time to complete tasks. This is where the trauma-informed care comes in. I know that I'm seeing more of it. I'm seeing more teachers practice trauma-informed care. That's wonderful. I see it. However, I still see the teachers who don't see the value in it. They're choosing not to. They're not buying in. They're not helping their students. They're not giving them the extra time to complete the tasks. They're not creating the safe and comfortable environments. And I understand why, because if I'm being a good relative and I try to see why they're not supporting and helping, what I see is that they have a lot to work on for themselves. And it's almost a little bit too big of a step to take to try to support children and youth in that way when they don't quite understand it for themselves. So by being a good relative, we take their hand, we bring them along, and we keep encouraging the teachers who are not quite there yet. You can help by ensuring your classroom is trauma-informed. You can let your class know that you care about them, and you look forward to seeing them daily. Some students, you don't see them for a week. You do the phone call, you do the home check, you do everything you're supposed to do, and they come a week later, they come to school. I would invite you to just be so happy to see those students. Just welcome them. Sometimes you might have students who come to school and they're not really getting anything done. And maybe you know about their home life. Maybe some things happened, but they're coming to school. It might look like they're coming to school to hang out. It might look like they're coming to school to waste your time. It might look like they're coming to school to waste their time, everybody's time. But those are the students who are looking for that connection, that safety, that healthy attachment. We want to greet those students. We want to say, oh, it's so good to see you today. I'm really glad that you showed up. And just have that moment, build that connection. Ensure the learning environment is organized and clean. And I know I don't have to say that, but I visited schools and classrooms all over. And what feels really good and really welcoming is, those clean classrooms, those organized classrooms. We see the timer is up. We see the visual schedules. We see it's such a beautiful place. Just to go into a nice, clean, organized classroom, our mind feels better when it's clean and organized. If it's something that's overwhelming, I would recommend, having students take care of their classroom together with you and create a sense of community where they have roles and responsibilities, and that switches. Make it fun. When I was teaching, we used to have fun cleaning up at the end of the day. I made up all kinds of jobs. Okay, so-and-so's pencil sharpener, you're picking up all the pencils. Oh, you're checking all the desks. Oh, check the desk checker to see that things are organized. Desktop wiper. You're making all kinds of jobs just so they can have that sense of community and feel proud of their classroom, because we don't know if they have that at home. We don't know, maybe they don't have their own room, maybe they don't have their own space. Have inclusive discussions about kinship and uniqueness of every family. This is a major one because oftentimes what I hear is your mom and dad, ask your mom, ask your dad. If we think about the children in our classrooms, realistically, is that okay to say that? Do we know that they're all living with two parents or even one parent? We don't know. So that's something that I would really encourage you to do, is just to make sure that you share, all families are different. All families are beautiful. Just encourage that. When I think about families, I also think about Mother's Day and Father's Day. I'm seeing a nice change right now. I'm seeing that some schools have moved forward in a trauma-informed way where they don't have Mother's Day. Here, make a card for Mom, it's Mother's Day. Here, make a card for Dad, it's Father's Day. That's not trauma-informed because a lot of students don't have a parent at home, or a mom or a dad or both. What I'm seeing and what I would recommend is that you can celebrate those days, absolutely, but change it up. You know, what I've seen is making a card for somebody you love. You get to pick, they get to pick whoever they want to make the card for. I've seen Caregivers Day. So that means anybody who cares for the children, they come have pancake breakfast. That's so inclusive. That's so beautiful. Oops, I went a little too far there. All right, so I decided to throw this slide in here because when I'm talking about trauma-informed care and the classroom and the experience, these are some of the things that are really needed. As you can see, I have my timer up here. I still use a timer. When I was a teacher, I loved timers. And this really shows me that I have 25 more minutes to share information. It feels really good knowing I have 25 more minutes. And I know what comes next. You know, I'm so excited about that. So as a classroom teacher, I was big on timers. I had sand timers up there in the corner. I had a big classroom timer and the small little timers. Now, trauma-informed care is really knowing what comes next. Okay? If students don't know how much time they have to complete a task, there's no visual schedule, they have no idea what's going on, what comes next, when the next break is, that's pretty tough for them to self-regulate. How can we expect them to self-regulate and complete tasks if they really have no idea what's going on? Can we do that as adults? No, we like to see an agenda. We like to know what time things start. We like to know if there's a break. We love to know what's going to happen next. So we need to do that for our children as well. I also included the noise cancelers. So how many people in this room understand that, you know, overstimulation can really affect mental health? Overstimulation of sound, overstimulation of lights, fluorescent lights, that can negatively impact a student's mental health. If a student has worry already, they woke up with worry, they didn't have a good sleep, maybe they witnessed one of the adverse childhood experiences, or one of those experiences had happened to them. They come to school and it's bright, it's loud, they don't know what's gonna happen next, there's no agenda, there's no, you know, it's just not good for their mental health. That is not trauma-informed. I included the sensory toys, because every classroom should have them. They're really helpful. We have those students who, it's hard to sit still. It's hard to stay focused. If we have sensory items in the classroom with, I don't like to call it rules, but you know, the proper way to use them, and we show them how to properly use them. We don't throw them across the classroom. They're here to keep us focused. And if they don't follow what they're supposed to do, you don't take it away and throw it in the garbage. You say, okay, we'll put it over here for now, flip the timer, let's do 2 minutes, and you can try again in 2 minutes. Guaranteed they're gonna try again and they're gonna do better. Maybe they might not successfully use it completely, they might do something wrong again, then try again, just try again and try again. We don't give up on them. They'll eventually get it right, and they do get it right. So I'm talking about, you know, the worry and the impacts of overdose and how it affects our educators and our children that we work with. I've experienced that too. I have several unhoused relatives, close relatives, who I love very much. Really amazing people. And I have close relatives that I've lost to overdose. I understand what it's like to wake up, you know, in the morning, worry about your relatives, pray for them every day, go to drive around and look for them. I understand that. I understand what our children are going through. And I just wanted to share, you know, this slide. This is my uncle, my late uncle, his name was Timothy. And he was very much a father figure for me. I had a lot of father figures, and he was one of them. And he was very joyful, very kind. He watched out for people. He took care of his siblings. He watched out especially for his younger sister. He was a father, a brother, a son, an uncle, a friend, a nephew. He was loving, joyful. He was a star quilt maker. He can make wolf star quilts. He can make eagle star quilts. Anything. He was just amazing like that. And that's what I remember about him. Just an amazing all-around person who happened to have adverse childhood experiences. And those adverse childhood experiences were unresolved, which led to addiction. And the reason I share this is because I want to really emphasize that it's just not okay to judge people because they have an addiction. It's not okay to label them. It's not okay to talk negatively about people who are going through an addiction in front of children. Like, we can't say, oh, that's an addict, your dad's an addict, your mom's an addict. It's not okay to do that because the children love their relatives. And to be realistic, we really need to teach them the skills of empathy, love, compassion, because if they're not going through it, guaranteed they're going to have a friend who's going through that. And they need to be good relatives. I have a message from a student that I'd like to share. It's amazing. This is kind of an amazing thing, you know. When I asked for guidance on what I should prepare, I was going to do a couple other things, and they just weren't feeling right. And this came up. I prayed for guidance. This came up. It hit me hard in my heart. And I thought, why this? This is something that I am still working through. I'm still, you know, working through the effects of overdoses. And I have my sister, a couple sisters out there. And I love them so much. So this is really close to my heart, and it was quite challenging for me to prepare. But I understand why. You know, it's relevant. I know I'm not the only one in the room who is experiencing this. And what ended up happening was, all of a sudden, you know, somebody had offered to make, well, I'll just say, well, one of my relatives that I love so much, she said, I want to make your dress. I want to make you a dress to do your presentation. I'm so proud of you. And she didn't know what I was going to present on yet. And she made me a purple dress. And I wanted to wear purple for overdose awareness. To add to that, I had somebody who made my earrings. And I said, I'm going to wear purple for overdose awareness. And she said, I lost my dad to overdose in 2022. Thank you for doing this. It just so happened she was the one making my earrings. Both of them are educators. So that showed me I'm an educator, they're educators, they both experienced overdose in the family. That's just how, you know, it impacts all of us, everybody in the room. So this is a message. I had a young person who, he became aware that I was going to do this presentation, and he said, I would like to share something. And I said, are you sure? Like, and he said, yes, I want to share. Please let me share. And you can keep it, we'll keep it anonymous. And so this is a message from the student. And he says, I am not ashamed to share that I have witnessed overdose, and I lost loved ones to overdose. I have loved ones in the hospital, but I am strong in my heart, and I know not to go on that path. Smudging and sharing circles have helped me at school. I ask you as teachers to be more aware of what your students go through and what they've been through in the past. Be there for them by letting them know you are there for them. Even if they choose not to talk about it, at least they know you're there for them. As a student, it feels good to know that we are not alone. I thought that was such a good message, because oftentimes we step out of our little, you know, comfort zone, and we try to be trauma-informed when we're just starting, and it might not be well received. But this just shows they hear it, they see. They're just not quite in that place sometimes to share anything, but it feels good to them that they know that they have somebody who cares. Here are some trauma-informed spaces. I thought that this was really important to share. This is 2025. This is just last week. You know, these are amazing, beautiful spaces that our students can go to, they know how to use them. The purpose of a trauma-informed space in a classroom is to ensure that students have that quiet space. You know, when you see students who walk in and they look like they're not ready to learn, sometimes they just need a little slower morning, a little slower start, just like we do. We don't show up to work just ready to go 100%. Sometimes we give maybe 70%. On really tough days, maybe 50%, realistically. So here I have a quote from a teacher. She says, "Creating a trauma-informed space in my classroom has helped me build stronger connections with my students, making learning feel safer and more accessible for everyone. When students feel seen, heard, and supported, they're more willing to take risks, engage, and grow." You notice that there's sewing machines there, there's ribbon skirt making happening there, the quiet space there. Another teacher says, "Teach with empathy, build with trust, and empower with understanding." And then here we have 2 more classrooms. And this one says, "Having a cozy space for my students to relax in helps them feel more at home and comfortable spending time in the classroom." Would you believe that these are all at the same school? We have so many teachers. I see so many teachers at that school all on the same page, all trauma-informed. We see the value in it. It's a beautiful place to be. I feel like I skipped over something here. There it is. Here we have, this is the principal at that school. So this principal shares a message, and this principal is a really amazing principal. This principal supports staff. This principal is honest with staff. This principal sees the value in trauma-informed care and practices it himself with his staff, because employee wellness in this school is really important. If we want schools to truly practice trauma-informed care and education, they need to feel safe. They need to feel good. Educators need to feel like they have a safety net of support around them, just like the students do. That's how we want our students to feel. Well, the teachers need the same thing. So this principal leads in that way. A trauma-informed approach in schools is more than recognizing the challenges our students face. It's about responding with compassion, creating safety, and building trust. Many of our students navigate complex traumatic realities that affect their ability to learn. And when we acknowledge their experiences with understanding and care, we open the door to healing and growth. But this work is not just for students. Our teachers and staff also carry the weight of supporting others while managing their own challenges. A trauma-informed school must be a place where educators feel valued, heard, and supported. By focusing on relationships, cultural identity, and holistic wellness, we ensure that education is not just about academics, but about empowering students and staff to see their own strength, their gifts, and maximize their potential. And that's from Principal Anthony Ishapi. And it's so amazing to see principals really practice this. Oftentimes, I see the opposite. I'm really sad to say that there are a lot of administrators that are really not on the same page with their employees, with their educators. It's almost like it's a very top-down system still, that Western system. In our way, we're all equal. We're equal with everything, like with the four-legged, we're equal with the winged, we're equal with the land, the sky, everything. So when we work from that Western perspective of top-down, you know what I'm talking about, it's pretty tough. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for us. Okay, so I have a message from a mother that I would like to share. And again, this is just how, how I talked about how things just really fell into place. And it's like the information was just shared. And I think that this is why it needs to be shared. This is something that our children need support with. And the way educators can support with that is just being there for them, being kind, openly sharing things, having talking circles, smudging. If you think about your classroom, how many of you actually have sage in your classroom? How many of you have the smudge kit, whatever you want to smudge with? Cedar. How many of you know how to take your class out to pick sage or to pick sweetgrass? Knowing the protocol for that. I know there's teachers that know, but what I often see is that it's all put on the land-based teacher, and that's not okay. It's for everybody. Everybody needs to do it because it's a community. It creates a good feeling. It's good. So a mother's message to educators. She says, "From the outside looking in, we have a good life. As her mother, I ensure my 13-year-old is clothed, fed, well-versed in our spiritual ways, an active powwow dancer and singer, well-traveled, respectful and kind. She was born to a father with complex, unhealed trauma. When she was 5, we began to experience the changes in him. He became consumed by the traumas, eventually falling to every kind of alcohol and hard drug available. From a 2-parent household to 1, from the security of 2 goodnight kisses to an odd phone call from him, from the safety of a Saturday night movie to hearing he's in the hospital, nearly died again, or we don't know where he is. From picking her up after school to it's not safe to be around him anymore. I ask that educators be mindful of this. You cannot tell what a child is going through just by looking at them. Bad grades could be filled with worry. A bad day may mean more than just waking up on the wrong side of the bed. Anxiety and missing school might be more than physical preteen insecurities. We are all impacted by addictions. I ask you to be gentle, be patient, be open to bonding with those students who need that extra love. Take the time to have honest conversations about what addictions and overdosing are doing to our loved ones. As we've all heard, it takes a village to raise a child. My hope is that my daughter and all of our children have loving guidance and support through their educational journey. I find that to be just a very beautiful, honest message from a parent who is really doing her best to raise her child and doing her best to support her child through the worries that we see. We know that our children have these worries. We know that our students have these worries. And this is her message. This is her wish for children to have that support in the classroom. And I know as educators, it might seem like we're always asking you, do this, do that, do this. Now you have to learn a new program. Now you have to do this by this date. It just adds and adds and adds up. But this is one thing that needs to change for sure. And to the administrators, your teachers aren't going to be able to do trauma-informed care if they're not feeling safe themselves. That relationship and that connection and that trust has to be built with the staff. If you're a principal, if you're a vice principal, please make sure that that connection with your staff is there, with the employees, with your teachers, with the EAs. That's really important. Otherwise, we won't get here. We won't get to trauma-informed care if the staff themselves don't feel safe. I thought I was done my presentation last night with that. I really thought I was done. And I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I just have that push again. I was talking about the guidance and that push, and I had to add one more slide, and this is it. Indigenous education is trauma-informed education. That's it. That's Indigenous education, because it's healing now. We're on a path of healing. Yes, we're informed. Yes, we know exactly what our families and our ancestors have been through. Now we have to do the healing. Now we're doing the good work. Education must fit what we need for our healing. And to do this, we must walk with love. We must walk with kindness. We must walk with compassion. because it's our natural law. If you understand that these are our natural laws, you do it. It's an everyday thing. Our thoughts have power. Our thoughts turn to words. Our words have power. Our words turn to action and how we treat one another. It's really important that we correct ourselves when we see that we're not being a good relative or we're not following our natural laws. And we model this for our children. We model this in the interactions that we have with our coworkers, with our families. With that, I would just like to leave it there. I thank you all for, spending time. I'm so grateful and blessed to be here to share this space with you. I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful. I can't even express that enough. Hechetu, yeah, this is what I know to be true. Pirama, yeah. Thank you.
All right, before she leaves the stage here, we want to make an acknowledgement here. We have a beautiful gift for Christy here for being able to share all of her beautiful knowledge. And so one of the practices in our communities, again, is gifting all of these knowledgeable people. And she honored the protocol and being able to answer the call and coming out and sharing her knowledge in the work that she does. And so we want to present her with a beautiful star quilt blanket here. All right, the work of Christy and all the educators and other experts in her field is very important. Our warriors and our relatives in our community, they need it. This approach, to help create a healthier community with a sense of safety, trust, and empowerment is crucial to our communities for it to recover and to heal. So we need to promote that resilience to all of those that are affected by trauma, and being trauma-informed is very important to that work. So as we move through the next few days, remember that the discussions that we have through the presentations and all of these great people that are sharing their knowledge and their hard work, that together we're building relationships to be able to learn from one another. And these lessons here aren't just for the present. They are investment into the future for our Indigenous people and our communities. Before we introduce our next speaker, we're going to kind of give a heads up that we do have vendors. We have vendors that are set up downstairs if you want to go pick up some beautiful items. If you didn't tell your wife you were leaving for 3 days, or your husband, you might want to pick up a gift for them. And so we also got all of the Think Indigenous swag up at the top here. You might see some of our people already wearing all the beautiful items. And so a lot of beautiful artisans have collaborated to create a lot of the work that we see. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kunis, and she's going to introduce our next speaker.
So next, we will have Karen Pheasant. She's a mother of 3 adult kids, Sophie, who is a jingle dress dancer, Jesse Asawamik, and Matthew Pheasant, who are grass dancers, and she's also a nukumis of 8 grandchildren, 4 girls and 4 boys. She's a lifelong competitive power dancer dedicated to preserving and sharing Indigenous dance traditions. Karen's scholarly pursuits include a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and English Literature, and graduate studies in educational policy studies from the University of Alberta, where she's completing a PhD in educational policy studies and Indigenous peoples education. She serves as an assistant professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary, cross-appointed to the Department of General Education and the Department of Humanities and Indigenous Studies. Karen was inducted into the Canadian Dance Hall of Fame by Dance Collection Dance, recognizing her significant contributions to Indigenous dance and culture. She is also the author of Powwow, a celebration through song and dance, which won the Normal Flack Award for Best Canadian Children's Nonfiction Book in 2021. I now have the privilege of welcoming Karen up to the stage, who will share the story of the jingle dress.
miigwech. Bonjour. Ambe weshte. Danse. I can't see who's out there, but I'm going to say, okay. Ani. Karen Pheasant. Mashkwan Kudkwe. Nindishnagas. We kwempon sing Nundonji ba. Apajechinishin. Manpi gea. I'm so happy to be here. Feel so privileged. As they were, I didn't even know I was in the program book. Chris never asked me for a photo or a bio, so I opened it, I'm there like, holy heck, who's that person? So I was reading it and I noticed that it mostly talked about my Western side as opposed to the other side of my life. And so I want to recognize at this time my children are a main reason why I stand here. My children is this life that I raised them. So Sophie, Matthew, and Jesse. And I have a feeling that Olin and Jackson might be watching. So hi boys. I'm a Gokum of 4 granddaughters and 4 grandsons, and we all dance together. One of my greatest joys when I can dance with my children. And so, actually, part of me is, I was at a meeting at the university a few weeks ago, and I was sitting with my Indigenous colleagues, and both of them told me they were not scholars. And we've been working together at the university at Mount Royal for several years, and I'm there, what? You're not scholars? And I just stood there real proudly. I am. And I said that not because, when I signed my name, I never put all those initials behind my name. On my business card that I meant to bring with me, all it says is, Nishnabé. That's what I am. That's what I am. I'm from Wikwemkong, and yes, my reserve is called Wikwemikong, but we have a community, the small part of the reserve that's called Wikwemkong means the smaller end of the reserve, so that's where my grandparents, my grandma, my great-grandma, and all that lineage. And so I was thinking, this is an education conference, and Dr. Scribe, I'm honored that he invited me. And so I made a new dress. I'm just happy, working like a mad woman, and you know how we are till midnight each night, sewing away, because we have day jobs, or I have a day job. And it's very ironic, and I want to acknowledge this land that we are on at Treaty 4, and I'm not going to do it the way that some people do it. I was driving here and thinking as I was putting the cones on my dress today, and I was thinking, and there's far too many people to acknowledge because I've spent a lot of time dancing here in Treaty 4, but two people that I want to recognize that have crossed over. And one is, he always called me sister, and I have a story that's, I'm going to share that happened in 1981, and he was a big part of it. And so that's Dennis Francis Ba. And so he was my brother. We traveled, we powwowed together for a very long time. So he crossed over, and I remember dancing with him at Enoch about 2 years ago. He was standing there, and he was weak, and he's just smiling. You know, the young Dennis used to race around the track dancing and doing all his Dennis Francis moves, but he was just there on the spot, and he was kind of offbeat. He missed the stop, but he was just laughing and happy. So I want to recognize him because he's from here. And the other one that I want to recognize is, so my family from Nikanit, some of you, I don't know if you're here, I can't see in the audience, but that's where I Sundance. And so one of my mentors and my teachers is the late Jean Oakes, and she went this past summer. And so I want to acknowledge, because I'm pretty sure you all know who she is, and she was a teacher and a mentor for many of us and all of us. So I want to acknowledge the Treaty 4 in that way. Next is one of the hats that I wear besides being a jingle dress dancer, is I'm an academic. And so it's real funny. So I have all these pages and pages that I thought I was going to read out to you. I will read this part. Just hold on a minute. So I teach, and before teaching at Mount Royal, I was at the University of Alberta teaching for many years. And I came across a situation in the classroom, and I was wearing one of my best favorite ribbon skirts, blazer, had my PowerPoint all queued up and all ready, and I was talking about health and wellness. But the speaker before me was asked the audience, and they were on those, there's an app that you can use to put an anonymous response on the whiteboard. And so the instructor said to the 440 students, why do Aboriginal people not succeed? And they just finished 12 weeks of an Indigenous education course. So they were allowed to anonymously put reasons. So some of them, you know, they put residential school, some of them put colonial policies. But within that thread of those posts on the whiteboard, and there was 14 of us instructors all sitting, and I was speaking next. And there was a big lecture hall, 440, I'll just say it, Wunya students. And within the thread of responses was, and I was sitting right there. I was like getting ready. I'm going to speak to 400 students. I got my lecture ready. And within the thread of responses was, because they're lazy, drunk alcoholics. And another one, and another one, and another one, saying the reason we don't succeed is we're lazy, drunk alcoholics. So I sat in a corner there. I was shattered. This is the University of Alberta, which I think of as a higher end university. And they're all Munya students. They were pre-service teachers. They were going to be the teachers for the following generations, maybe my grandchildren. So I was devastated, as you can believe. So I pulled myself to the center over here. I came, and I was still a bit in shock that these highly educated pre-service teachers, after 12 weeks of lecture, after 12 weeks of experiential learning, after 12 weeks of readings and reflection papers, that they would speak about us that way. So there I was in my ribbon skirt, numb with anger, and all of that other. So I stood there, and I was looking at them, and I had the PowerPoint up, and I couldn't figure out how to respond. So this is what I did. I danced. I danced a sidestep. I danced, I don't know how long. I danced across the floor, praying. And then I turned up to them. I finished the song. Maybe I danced 2 push-ups, I don't know. And I said, that's what I do. And I had a PowerPoint of me and my children. I was holding my grandson, Olin, with all his beaded splendor grass dance outfit. I said, this is what I do when I hear how you, Canadian society, think of us, think of my grandchildren, think of my children, of my people. I dance. Anyway, I didn't realize I was going to tell that story, but I shared that story. So I was writing it. So I'm still in the middle of dissertation writing. And so I phoned my mom, who was 88 years old at the time, and I told her about what happened. And I told her, in front of a lecture hall, I started dancing. Jingle dress dancing, sidestep. No drum, just me dancing. So there's a long silence. And usually Mom speaks English to me. So she started speaking in the language. And this is what she said. Chiquez, I'm her oldest daughter. It will take them a long time. They don't get it. They think it's just fun. They don't know it's a way of life, the dance. Those are not costumes. They don't know it's about Gitchamanitu, Inatamuin. That is what is going on with the dancer. It is Gitchaman, Inatamuin, thoughtful reflection. That is there with the dancer. They don't know that. Mia. And so I'm also going to say Mia. I had, 20 pages I was going to kind of read off and share, but I'm going to just tell a few stories. So, So as I mentioned, I'm from Wikwemikong, which is on Manitoulin Island, exactly 24 hours drive. I've been driving that drive for 40 years. And it's on Georgian Bay, on Lake Huron, which is of the Great Lakes. So my generation, I have 8 grandchildren, so that gives you, and my oldest grandchild is 23, so that gives you a roundabout age of how old I am. So my generation, a few things happened. It was the civil rights era. I'm really proud. It was the late 60s, early 70s. I was a young teenager, and the beginning of powwows. And actually, I don't know if anybody's here from Standing Buffalo and around there. You all came, your relatives came to Manitoulin, because Manitoulin, Wikwemikong, we had our first powwow in 1968 because you came and shared. And so we just celebrated. We've been doing powwow ever since. So I've always seen it in my life. And so I was thinking about, I generally, when I speak about teaching, I speak about writing, I'll teach about history. Rarely, and I miigwech to Chris Scribe for inviting me here to talk about the Jibigashigegan. I rarely talk about the jingle dress because I was thinking, those of you that know of Eberhampton, the redefinition of Indian education, he cites a wolf leg from Siksika of the Nitsitsipi people. And I love that quote, and I use it, and I just got over it. But what he said is, ceremony is something we do. We don't talk about it. So that's my generation, how it is. And I see a lot of young people here. And so a lot of social media, and I appreciate, I don't know if Kevin Tatchin's watching from Sioux Valley, but he did a post the other day that sometimes the only knowledge that some people can get is what they get from being on social media. My generation, the way we did it was we went to a gathering, set up our tent, and opened up our jar of peanut butter, or opened our can of Clicks, and we sat there and we told stories. That's how we learned. And so, and nobody said, we're gonna go and do land-based education. Put on a ribbon skirt. That didn't happen back then. But what happened when I was a little girl, a very young teenager, it was probably 1972, my parents decided we're going to go to Animki Wachu, the Thunder Mountain, or what's called Mount McKay in Thunder Bay. At the time, I was already a shawl dancer, what they call scrub dancer. So we went to Thunder Bay, and we went to set up our tent. My dad, he's very sociable, and so he went and he found a good spot. And my mom, she's 91 now, and she still tells that story. And that has got to be over 50 years ago. And so that was my first time seeing the women, the jingle dress dancers. And what's imprinted in my mind, and I want you to come with me. So they came in all together. And even in those days, so this is Anishinaabe territory on Mount McKay. So they came in together, all of them. And so some of the women, the traditional dancers, they came off to the side, they went off to the side, but these women, and I like how Linda Standing made these leggings for me. You see a zigzag here. They represent two things because I consider Treaty 7 my home. I've lived there, I teach there, and so, but when the jingle dress dancers came in, grand entry, they came in and they went in a zigzag like that, all the way around. And I always remember that, with their feet lightly off the ground. And the way that I seen it at that time, it was Ogitchadok Kwelk, the warrior woman. And that's the way, as I don't know how old I was, a kid. And then it was many, and I still kept shawl dancing. I ended up living in Treaty 7, a shawl dancer. And in 1987, I was on my way home, 1988, and I mentioned Dennis Francis because in 1981, so I'm what you call one of those, I don't know, any Friendship Center people here? No? I guess this isn't it. So anyway, I call myself sometimes a Friendship Center baby. I worked at the Friendship Center, president of the youth group, doing powwow club, powwow night. And that's how I knew Dennis Francis. So Alex Skeed and the Lake of the Woods Drum had come to Toronto and did cultural workshops. And I thought, my goodness, that is what I want. And remember, the dress in those days, in the early 80s, was seen nowhere except in the region of where the dancers were. So sometimes even Winnebago Kwelk, Lakota Kwelk, but they all just danced where they were in their neighborhood. And so I decided I wanted to go to Treaty 3, Lake of the Woods. And so I went, and Dennis picked me up. I was gonna get on a bus with my son Matthew, who was about this size, and off we went to Lake of the Woods. And Alex Skeed stayed in my life until he passed. But when he seen me in '88, and I was happy to see him because I hadn't seen him in a great while, and I was telling him, because by that time I was getting old, 1988. So I said to him, I'm still dancing. I was really proud of myself that I wasn't a teenager anymore. I now had 3 babies, Sophie, Matthew, and Jesse, and I was dancing, and my youngest, Jesse was an infant, 1 year, 10 months old, 8 months old. So he kind of looked at me sternly and he said, you know that you get from an elder? It means way more than anything else. He goes, that's good. You're still dancing. And I could just tell by his tone. So I'm like, so I just kind of put my head down and I'm waiting. He says, you know, Karen, we have our own dress. We have our own style that's not danced anywhere else, but it's ours, the jingle dress. I'm wondering, how come you're not dancing our dance? I was like, holy, talk about feeling whooped. And because I always thought of the jingle dress in those days, only something of the Ogitchadok Kwelk, only the warrior woman. And so when he said that to me, immediately hung up the shawl. And I was at Lake of the Woods. And so the cones have long fell off of it, but I'm going to show you something. My first dress. And so I kept it. And what I want to show you is something that is, I always remember, so some of it, I don't know who's here, I don't know what kind of powwow people are here, I don't know if the front row looks like all teachers and educators here. But some of the old school people that are here, because I heard that Carla and Roy are here. So if I mentioned the late Della Lovejoy. They know Della Lovejoy. And she adopted me. She was adopted grandma to my children, and she was mom to so many of us. And I had, like back in those days, I had only danced in my region, in my territory. I hadn't done the international crossing over and getting all over. So Della was, she liked my jingle dancing I was doing. It was pretty straight, pretty simple, nothing. In those days, Claudia Adams was a big name. I don't know if some of you remember that name. So I didn't dance anything like that. So she says to me, well, I would sit with her right away. And anyway, the young girls started dancing. And here's me pulling a Della Lovejoy move. She would, I don't know if I'll ever get to that. She was a chain smoker too. She'd be sitting and she'd be walking up to somebody and she would just tell you what for. I aspire to be like her, but that's the closest I can get is what I did that right there, throwing my notes away. So she'll walk up to a young woman and she'll look, and they got their dress hiked up to their hips and their bare legs showing. And she'll say, don't you know? And she'd go on about how a jingle dress is probably made. And those of you that don't know the late Della Lovejoy, she was Lakota Sioux traditional dancer. Never danced jingle a day in her life. But she knew. She knew. And she would tell those girls, you go back and put a underskirt in your dress. And so I'm sharing that because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just the first 3 rows and then bring it back. I'm assuming, and I know that saying about assume, so I'm going to make a premise that maybe gals don't know how to make a dress with an underskirt. I don't know. So just the first 3 rows, I'm going to pass this. And I washed it. It smells all nice. I haven't worn it, and like if you look at it, it's so tiny, I don't think I could squeeze myself into it. So the same with this, as you could see. So that was 1981 when I first saw the jingle dresses. My next story that I'm going to share is I've spent a lot of times, and currently I'm spending kind of doing a quasi-artist residency at Lake of the Woods. And again, I'm still attached to those friends that I knew almost 40 years ago. And my dissertation is about how I approach teaching in the classroom based on a Shibigashigegan paradigm. That means a jingle dress. And as this you all know, I'm almost sure, the dress represents healing. And there's different interpretations what that healing means. There's different interpretations where the dress comes. And because I learned from Lake of the Woods Treaty 3, I'm one of those people. This is what I heard, that's what I say, and that's it. But the reality is, after dancing across the country for almost 40 years, I know women who dance jingle from all the territories, and each one of them, how this dress came to them is their story. How they make that dress is their story. And so what I did this fall, my supervisor, Dr. Dwayne Donald from the U of A, he told me, Karen, you need to write a chapter, there it is, on the jingle dress. And for years I wouldn't. Because I'm like, no, somebody wants to know about the jingle dress, you need to go to Lake of the Woods, and you need to dance to those Anishinaabe drums. That was me. But I have granddaughters now, and we all understand about 60 scoop, MMIG, all of that. And so who am I? So I started, so there's, I don't know, 30, 40 pages there. So I'm just giving the highlights of the story. So here's one. Ann Wilson, Ba, She's been gone, I don't know, 10, 15 years. So I was home on Manitoulin, Sudbury region, and she was speaking. I went and sat beside her. I recognized her from when I danced in Treaty 3. So I went and sat with her, and she says, we did a chit-chat, and then she says, yeah, they brought me in here because they want me to do the jingle dress ceremony, which in my years, by that time I had been around Treaty 3 a couple of decades, so I didn't know what she was talking about. And she said, I don't know what they mean, but this was in Sudbury area. I don't know what they mean, but that's why I'm here. I said, okay. Well, it went, and there was some stories told, but I'm going to fast track because I have a really long story that's in there, and I'm going to give you, because, I don't know, there's supposed to be a red light that's going to flash and say, you're done in 5 minutes. And I spent too much time dancing that I'm going to, so I'll quickly tell you the highlights. So she tells a story, and she's from Manitou Rapids. When you come to Treaty 3, know that the dress, from what I understand, belonged to that whole region. So I went and sat with Bessie Tom this past fall. I went and visited her. I went and visited Bessie Tom. Stick with me here. Stick with me here. I know I was talking about Ann Wilson, but along that generation is Bessie Tom. So it was about very early 90s, and I was at Fort Francis, and there was a little powwow there, and Black Lodge drum was there, Kenny Scabby Rope, Louise, and the boys, and they were doing this dang beautiful song, and all of us were just jamming and then dancing, and oh, it was a good song. Flat grass and bouncing, Black Lodge. Then all of a sudden there was a kerfuffle by the drum, and I kind of looked, and there was Maggie White. There was Bessie Tom. Bessie Tom. She's fanning the drum as a Ogichida Kwe. And then Kenny and the boys, they kind of move over real quick, and they're kind of looking at each other like this, and then she stepped back, and she did it. I'm not sure if she did it once or a few times, and then she went back. And so I always remember that. Partly I remember that because somewhere in the mythology of the jingle dress, somebody said, no fans and no feathers. I don't ever recall hearing that or knowing that in my many decades and decades of dancing. So I went to see Bessie Tom this fall, and she's in a wheelchair, she can't walk anymore, and she talked about that. And she talked about, and if you ever saw real old videos, Maggie White and all the other ladies from the Treaty 3 area, a lot of them. And when I started out many years ago, I always had a wing fan, but as you know, the tail fan became vogue, and I was competing. So my heels went a bit higher. That didn't last too long because my calves ended up hurting me. So I tried the tail fan for a while, and it just didn't feel right, so I'm back to my wing fan. So I kind of deviated and went on a sidebar there. So back to Ann Wilson. I feel like my mom now. She was telling a story there. Mom, you were talking about Ann Wilson. Ann Wilson. Oh, okay, they waved at me. I missed a red light. So basically, she had a long story. You'll have to read my dissertation when it's done. Two things. There's two things. She was talking about healing. It's a very long story. It was a woman that had gone through a lot of loss. And Ann Wilson told her, you need to create. And she did a long talk, but she concluded her talk with, you need to create, create, create. And so I bead, I sew, I design. I don't know how many beaders and how many sewers I have. And the meditative healing practice, yes, my dance is important to me, but when I create, like I created this dress the past week, one really quick story, Okay. In 1989, Whitefish Bay had a jingle dress special. At that time, the dress hadn't gained popularity yet. So they invited, and a lot of women came from around this way and went over there. And it wasn't just Maggie White, it was Evelyn Tom and the White family, a whole bunch, like a dozen and a half. So I have some educators here. The big difference between Western education and Indigenous thought, Indigenous thinking, our knowledge is collective. There's a whole bunch of us. So it isn't one person that owns this. So I'm just sharing stories about the women I met in my life and the gentlemen. And so they showed us how they dance, and dancing that straight jingle that you see. I consider myself a straight. I don't call myself old style. I don't call myself, stuff is falling. Chris is throwing water bottles at me now to try to get me off this. I'll finish in a minute. So they showed us, and then they stepped aside, and then all of us women went out there, and I'm like jamming, dancing my thing. And then in the middle song, I'm going to mention Sharon Roberts here because I kind of forgot about this. Michael Roberts, Sharon's mom, she reminded me of this. In the middle of the song, I kid you not, there is a drum really singing their song. Maggie White. Not a word. She stepped up to that drum, and she stopped them singing in the middle of the song. And then she went to her son, and she said, blah, da, 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 da. And he picked the mic, and he said, in short, because what happened is, what I gather, 'cause I talked to people after, there was that, I don't know what word to use, so I'm not going to use any word. They weren't, the girls, the women weren't doing what was shown to us. They were dancing other stuff. And so MC, her son, said, we showed you how we dance jingle. That is what jingle is, and we're not seeing that out there. We want you to honor. And then they danced for us again to show us. And so what I did is, I told the story many times, and then I ended up writing it. And then I'm very honored and grateful that they selected 10 dancers. This was 1989. 10 dancers who they felt reflected what they had shown, visitors. So I think there was Diane DeRoger was there, Marcy Fiddler. Man, that woman could jam when she was a jingle dress dancer. There was 10 of us, Mary Alice Smith and myself. And so it was many years later, almost 20 years later, I decided to write the story. I did a dance production, and so about that long story. So I'm going to conclude and call Christopher. Can I have more water, please? So I have very little of this book, so I'm going to give this to Christopher. This is the promise, the transfer of the Anishinaabe Queer dance to the next generation. And that's my story. Hi, hi, miigwech.
All right, beautiful presentation. Before she exits, we want to make sure that we acknowledge her for all of her great stories today. Did a great job, amazing. And so we have a beautiful star quilt that Kunis is going to be presenting to her too. Let's give her another big round of applause. Nice, a great example of our oral storytelling tradition from a knowledgeable elder there. And so again, it could be very valuable in our decolonization practice that we're promoting here. So traditional oral storytelling tradition amongst our people is an art form. A lot of our people, they have this skill set to captivate you, to keep your attention. And so as we listen to the stories, all of it exists in the teller's mind. And so there's no script, there's no books that kind of separate the people, the interactions. And so, our oral stories, they use a lot of humor. They use a lot of gestures. they bring a story to life. They provide opportunities for people to reconnect to their culture and spirituality, as well as, a greater understanding of our Indigenous worldview. So in our work, we continue to, search out and actively seek stories from our communities in which we serve. And so it helps to enhance our local education and educational environment. So our stories can relate to the present, they can, relate to the future, and we can use them as values are discussed, in those presentations and their relevance. And so many of our stories traditionally today, we know exist in our songs. They also exist in our prayers, in our paintings, in our textiles. And so these oral accounts help our Indigenous people restore harmony. And so these narratives that our people speak of, they are of resilience, and they help the learners to understand the natural world and build cultural awareness within storytelling. So before we move on to our next presentation, we have some housekeeping and some great messages to share with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Kunis here.
Okay, a few things. First off, tomorrow everything won't be in this space. It'll be downstairs, kind of the way you came. There's ways to get around. The breakout rooms will all be around there too. Also, all the event information is on an app called Event Mobi, M-O-B-I. You can download that and then download all the conference information, the agenda, so if there's any changes or anything, you can kind of schedule out all the things that you want to do, all the breakouts you want to attend. So that is Event Mobi. You can get it on the App Store, and then you put in the password Think Indigenous 2025, and you'll be able to access everything.
All right. Also, tomorrow we have the big grass dance championship that's heard all around the world. And so with your conference pass and your registration, just present that. You should be able to get a ticket to the event tomorrow evening. And if you have other relatives that came with you, you can't share these with them, all right? They got to buy their own ticket. And so, your grandkids that you're still watching, your older kids at your room, they need to buy tickets too. And so everybody's got to get a ticket, all right? So now we're going to be introducing our next performance as we close out our night. We're going to be introducing Charging Bear Performance Dance Troupe. And they have been showcasing the beauty of First Nations culture for over 15 years, performing all around and across Turtle Island. So through song and dance, Charging Bear performances aim to break stereotypes, educate, and entertain. So today, the group is made up of different tribes and is honored to be asked to share song and dance with you all. So without any further ado, let's give a big round of applause and a welcome to Charging Bear. Another big round of applause for Charging Bear. All right, again, just another reminder, we're not in this space tomorrow, so you got to take your blankets with you. Hey, you can't duct tape them here. Otherwise, these guys are going to be around town selling blankets here. We also have our merchandise, Think Indigenous merchandise out at the foyer. And so if you haven't had a chance yet, go check it out. Go buy some of that stuff there. I guess they're going pretty fast right now. And so limited supplies. And so come check it out in the lobby area. And some more updates here.
Oh yeah, just to double check everything, all the event info is on Event Mobi. If you don't want to download, you can also find it on Facebook or the Think Indigenous website. And then once again, Grass Dance tickets will go on sale tomorrow at about 5. You'll be able to get a ticket with this. You can think of this as your all-access pass. 8 a.m. breakfast. Oh yeah, and then tomorrow we'll have 8 a.m. breakfast here, going into the first speaker at about 8:45. So try to be here early, share a meal with us, and let us get the day started in a good way.
All right, so we want to say thank you for all being here. We look forward to the incredible conversations that you're going to have ahead and to the new paths that we will all forge together. So welcome again to Think Indigenous 2025.
Yeah!